This $13 door transfer vent trick fixes the hottest, most consistently uncomfortable room in your entire house. It takes about 20 minutes to install, needs no electrician, no HVAC technician, and no ductwork modification. And it solves a problem that a full-size, professionally installed zone control system charges you $2,500 to $4,500 to fix. So why doesn't a single HVAC technician ever mention it during a routine service call? By the end of this, you'll know exactly what's happening behind that closed bedroom door and why the industry has every reason to stay quiet about the cheapest fix in the entire house. Right now, if you've got one room in your house that's always 5 to 10 degrees hotter or colder than the rest of the place, your options look expensive. A ductless mini-split for that one problem room runs $1,500 to $3,500 installed. A zoned duct system with electronic dampers and a dedicated control panel runs $2,500 to $4,500 for a typical home. A duct redesign, adding a bigger supply run or a second return, means opening walls and ceilings and paying a contractor for a full day of labor at $75 to $125 an hour. Every one of those fixes assumes the problem is your ductwork. In a huge number of houses, it isn't. The problem is sitting right there in the doorframe, and almost nobody looks at it. Here's the mechanism, and it's more basic than anything an HVAC contractor will ever explain to you. Your forced air system pushes conditioned air into a room through a supply duct, and it needs that same volume of air to leave the room and travel back to the furnace or air handler through a return path. When you close a bedroom door, you cut off that return path almost entirely. A standard interior door only has a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch gap under it by building code, and that tiny gap simply cannot pass the volume of air a modern supply vent is pushing in. The room behind that door starts to pressurize. Air has nowhere to go, so the blower has to work harder. Less air actually makes it into the room in the first place, and the room falls behind on temperature every single cycle the system runs. Think of it like trying to fill a bucket that has a small drain hole in the bottom. If the drain hole is sized correctly for the flow of water going in, the bucket stays at a steady level. Shrink that drain hole down to almost nothing, and the water backs up, overflows, or simply never fills the bucket evenly in the first place. Your return air path is that drain hole, and a closed bedroom door with a code minimum undercut is the equivalent of shrinking it down to a fraction of what the system actually needs to stay balanced. This isn't a guess or a theory. Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory ran a detailed study on exactly this effect in residential forced air systems and found that closing interior doors could reduce airflow to some rooms by as much as 30%. And in the most extreme cases they measured, create pressure imbalances equivalent to nearly 900 cubic feet per minute of air with nowhere to go. Their measurements showed some closed-door rooms running 3 to 4 degrees Celsius, worse in Fahrenheit, off from the rest of the house, purely because of the door, with the ductwork behind those rooms working exactly as designed. The building science term for what's happening is pressure imbalance, and it's been documented in the research literature since at least the early 2000s. It's just never made it into a homeowner's vocabulary, because nobody's selling you anything by explaining it. And here's where this stops being just a comfort problem and starts being something closer to a hazard. That pressurized room has to equalize somehow, and it does it by pulling unconditioned air in from wherever it can. Cracks around window frames, gaps in exterior wall penetrations, sometimes straight down a chimney or water heater flue in the opposite direction, pulling combustion byproducts back into the house instead of venting them outside. Building scientists call this backdrafting, and it's a real documented risk in tightly sealed, pressure-imbalanced homes with gas appliances. It's the reason building codes and combustion safety testing programs specifically flag rooms with atmospherically vented water heaters or furnaces near closed-door bedrooms as a higher risk configuration, even though almost nobody explains that risk in plain language to the homeowner living with it. Stick with me, because after I show you the fix, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to check whether your own house is doing this right now, using nothing but a piece of tissue paper and 30 seconds of your time. So, what actually fixes this? The building industry has a name for it: a transfer grill, sometimes called a door vent, jump duct, or transfer air pathway. It's a rectangular vent, usually built to fit either directly into the bottom or top panel of the interior door itself, or into the wall above the door frame. that lets air freely travel between the room and the hallway without needing to prop the door open or leave a gap under it. It's the same basic concept as the louvered closet doors you've probably seen in older homes, just applied deliberately to fix an airflow problem instead of a coincidence of style. The International Residential Code actually addresses this directly. Section M1601.4 requires that when a forced air system serves a room with a door that can be closed, there has to be an adequate return air path, either through a transfer grill, an undercut sized to the system's airflow, a jump duct, or a dedicated return duct back to the air handler. Most builders satisfy the bare code minimum with the standard door undercut and call it done, even though that undercut is routinely too small for the actual airflow. A modern high-efficiency furnace or heat pump is pushing into a bedroom. Nobody checks it against the actual cubic feet per minute the system is delivering to that specific room, because that would require a duct calculation most production home builders simply never run room by room. The code technically gets satisfied on paper. The airflow problem does not actually get solved in practice. A door-mounted transfer grill costs $12 to $25 depending on size, material, and finish, and installing one is a genuinely simple job. You measure the door, mark a rectangle roughly 12 by 6 inches near the top or bottom of the door, drill a starter hole in each corner, cut the opening with a jigsaw, and press the two halves of the grill together from either side of the door so they sandwich the cut opening and snap or screw together. Total install time for someone who's never done it before is well under half an hour, and it requires nothing more than a drill, a jigsaw, and a tape measure. Most manufacturers sell these with a paper or plastic cutting template included, so you're not eyeballing the rectangle freehand, and the grills themselves come in enough finishes: white, wood grain, brushed metal. That matching your existing door trim usually isn't a problem. If you'd rather not cut into the door at all, a transfer grill or louvered vent installed in the wall directly above the door frame does the same job. And it's actually the preferred option in a lot of building science literature, because it keeps the airflow path higher in the room, closer to where warm air naturally wants to move anyway. That version costs slightly more in materials, usually $20 to $35, and takes a bit more drywall work and a bit more patience, but it avoids cutting a hole in a door you might want to keep intact, particularly on a solid core or paneled door. If you want the full breakdown of which airflow fixes are genuinely worth doing in your own house before you spend thousands of dollars on a system you don't need, the Passive House Files walk through the exact order of operations, what to check first and what to skip entirely. Scan the QR code and see for yourself. Now here's that tissue paper test I promised. Close the door to the room that runs hot or cold. Let the system run for a few minutes, then hold a single square of toilet paper or a lit incense stick up to the gap under the door. If you see it get pulled strongly toward the room or pushed strongly out from under it, that's a visible physical sign of the exact pressure imbalance the Berkeley researchers measured with instruments. A healthy, balanced room barely moves that tissue at all. This costs you nothing and takes less time than reading this sentence, and it will tell you more about your comfort problem than most HVAC technicians will bother to check on a service call. A homeowner in Ohio named Kevin Reyes documented exactly this test on a home renovation forum in 2021. His upstairs guest bedroom ran consistently 6 to 8 degrees warmer than the rest of the house every summer, and 2 separate HVAC companies had quoted him a mini-split installation to fix it. He tried the tissue test first, out of curiosity, and watched the paper get sucked flat against the door gap the moment the air handler kicked on. A clear sign the room was pressurizing hard enough to fight the return path. He bought an $18 door-mounted transfer grill, cut the opening himself in about 25 minutes using a jigsaw and a template printed from the manufacturer's website, and logged the room's temperature for the following 2 weeks. The gap between that bedroom and the hallway, thermostat closed from 7 degrees down to about 1.5 degrees without touching the ductwork, the thermostat, or spending $1 on equipment. He canceled both mini-split quotes. So why doesn't anyone in the industry bring this up? The answer isn't a conspiracy, it's a business model. An HVAC company makes money installing equipment, mini-splits, zone control panels, dampers, additional return ducts, and the labor that comes with all of it. A transfer grill is a hardware store item that costs less than the service call fee alone. There's no markup worth chasing, no labor hours to bill, and no equipment to sell. When a technician is standing in your hallway looking at a hot bedroom, the profitable answer is a $3,000 mini-split quote. The correct answer, more often than people realize, is a $13 vent and a jigsaw. There's also a second reason this stays quiet, and it's less cynical. Most residential HVAC technicians are trained to size and install equipment, not to diagnose airflow pathway problems at the level of building science research. Pressure imbalance from closed doors is covered in ACCA's Manual D duct design guidance and in Building Science Corporation research, but that's specialized training most service technicians never receive, because their apprenticeship and licensing focus on repair, refrigerant handling, and installation, not whole-house airflow diagnostics. It's not that they're hiding it from you. In a lot of cases, they genuinely were never taught to look for it in the first place. And a 15-minute service call rarely leaves time to run a room-by-room airflow diagnosis, even if the technician wanted to. There are real limits to what a transfer grill can fix, and it's worth being honest about them before you assume this solves everything. First, it only addresses return air path problems, meaning rooms that are hot or cold, specifically because closing the door restricts airflow. If your supply duct itself is undersized, crushed, disconnected in the attic, or simply too long a run from the air handler, a transfer grill won't add a single extra degree of cooling capacity because the problem is on the supply side, not the return side. And no amount of extra return path will make up for conditioned air that never reached the room in sufficient volume to begin with. Second, transfer grills do reduce sound isolation and some privacy between rooms, since they create a physical, if indirect, path for both air and noise. A bedroom next to a noisy hallway will hear more of that hallway through a transfer grill than through a solid door. And some manufacturers sell acoustically baffled versions with an internal maze pattern specifically to reduce that sound transfer, usually for a few dollars more than the basic model. Third, in homes with a truly severe imbalance, closer to that 900 cubic feet per minute figure from the Berkeley research, a single small grill may reduce the pressure problem without eliminating it completely, and you may need either a larger grill, a grill on both a door and the room above it, or a second grill venting into an adjoining space to fully balance the airflow. Here's a claim genuinely worth checking yourself. The Building Science Corporation, an organization whose research building contractors and energy auditors actually rely on, has published guidance stating that inadequate return air pathways are one of the most common and most overlooked deficiencies in residential forced air system installations, right alongside duct leakage and undersized returns. That's not a fringe opinion. That's a documented, industry-recognized problem sitting behind millions of closed bedroom doors right now, with a fix that costs less than a large pizza. Compare the numbers one more time. A mini split for one problem room, $1,500 to $3,500. A zoned duct retrofit, $2,500 to $4,500. A door or wall transfer grill, $12 to $35, installed in an afternoon with hand tools you probably already own. None of this replaces a genuinely undersized duct system or a failing air handler. But for the single most common cause of one hot or cold room in an otherwise comfortable house, a $13 vent addresses the actual documented physics of the problem, while a mini split just works around it at 10 times the cost, without ever fixing the underlying imbalance at all. If you had to guess right now, would you bet that your own problem room is a closed-door pressure imbalance, or something deeper in the ductwork itself? Try the tissue test tonight and drop your result in the comments. I want to know how many of you are dealing with the same 50-cent fix hiding behind a $100 door. Or how many of you turn out to have a genuinely undersized duct instead. And if you found this useful, subscribing and sharing is the single best way to help this channel keep going. Next time, we're looking at the return air grill sizing mistake that's quietly making your entire furnace or air handler work harder than it should in every single room of the house, not just the one behind a closed door. Same story, an even bigger fix hiding in plain sight.